Hi everybody, this is Max with Enlight Automotive. Today we got this brand new 2015 GMC Sierra. This is the Denali model, and what we're going to do is swap over the factory halogen headlight bulbs over to our Xenon HID system. So the first step here, you want to open the hood. Now go pull the hood latch inside the vehicle, and then when you come out here, there's this little lever here. You're going to reach your hand under the hood when it's just slightly popped up, push it over all the way to the right, and then lift the hood up to expose the engine bay. So the first step is to come over to the passenger side of the vehicle. This is a US spec car, so this is going to be the passenger side where the airbox is. Now, in order to gain access to the factory headlight bulb, which is located here, it's inside this headlight cap, what we're going to do is actually remove the factory airbox just to give us some more room and clearance to take the bulb out. Now what you're going to need is either a socket, or you can use a Phillips or flathead screwdriver to take out 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. So take those out. And then also what you want to do is loosen this bolt here and loosen the clamp. Just a quick note, to get this particular screw out, I found it easiest to use a long flathead screwdriver. It's a little bit inconvenient because there is a hard line here, which is a silver pipe, and it just blocks the way a little bit if you're trying to use like a socket extension, but I found this is the easiest thing to use. So next what we're going to do is take off the electrical connector for the mass airflow sensor. Just stick your finger under this red tab here, pull it up until it clicks, and that's going to expose this black tab, and you just want to push that tab down and then pull the connector off like that. And then also back here there's a little wire, or I'm sorry, a little zip tie here, and just gently pull. You might want to wiggle and twist this to pull that gray fastener out. Now remember, don't take this all the way off, just loosen this band clamp here, and then once you've got it loose, just slide off the intake hose and then carefully lift out the top of the airbox and set it aside. Next, just lift the air filter out. There's nothing securing it, it's just kind of laying in there. Set that aside. And now what we want to do is remove this lower part of the airbox. What you need to do here, down at the very base of the airbox, you can see below my thumb there's the support base for the airbox, and reach your hand down under and then pull straight up until you hear that thud. There's no screws holding this in. It's just they're just snug rubber grommets that have prongs sticking through the grommets. So once you get that one out, come over to the other side and then lift up, and it just pops out like that. And just take that out, and now set that aside. Once you get to this point, one more thing that you want to do just to give you easier access to the headlight bulb is you want to take out these two plastic clips here, 1, 2, and to do this, just you want to separate the two halves of the clip here. You can use a flathead screwdriver, or you can use like a panel pop tool or pry tool like this. And then once you get that, you want to pull out the top half of the plastic clip like that. And then once you get there, take out the bottom half of the plastic clip like that, and then do that for both sides. Once you have the two clips out, just fold this guy down, and this will expose the headlight cap. Now grab onto these tabs here on the headlight cap, twist it counterclockwise, takes a little bit of force, and then pop it out like that. Here you can see the bulb. Whoops. Here you can see the bulb. Now all you need to do is gently lift up on this locking tab here, and then push it away from the headlight bulb. Don't lift up too hard, or else you'll break it. So separate the factory headlight connector from the bulb, and then turn the bulb counterclockwise to take it out. So I'm going to do that quickly here. So once you turn it counterclockwise, it just pulls straight back. Here we are on the driver's side of the vehicle. This side is a lot easier since there's nothing in the way. All you got to do, grab the headlight cap, same thing as the other side, twist it counterclockwise, pull it out, and then take the factory connector off the back of the bulb, twist the bulb counterclockwise, pull it out, and then set both of the factory bulbs aside. So now what we need to do is to prepare the HID bulbs and the factory headlight caps. Effectively, what we're going to be doing is taking power from inside the headlight housing here and transferring it outside the headlight housing. And to do that in a waterproof fashion, what we're going to do is feed the bulb harness through a hole that we're going to drill into the headlight cap. And then this will allow us to send power to the relay harness and also get power from the ballasts. Now to do this, what you're going to need is a drill with a stepper bit or a taper drill bit here. And what this allows us to do is just drill different size hole diameters. You can also use a spade bit or perhaps a 1-inch hole saw if you have that. And we're going to do both headlight caps right in the center here. You can see there's this convenient little hexagon. You can do it from the inside or the outside. I'm going to probably do it from the outside here. And drill a 25 millimeter diameter or 1-inch hole in both headlight caps dead center. Now, in order to get the tightest possible seal, one of the things that I like to do is kind of take apart this connector here a little bit. There's just two pieces that come off. There's a piece that looks like this, which you just slightly or gently bend these outer tabs here, this guy there and this guy. They latch onto these tabs here. I take that off and then also just take off the yellow silicone seal here, and it just gives me a little bit more clearance, so I can drill the smallest hole possible to fit the connector through. That's all you want to do is you want to drill a hole barely big enough to fit this connector through. And then once you get that, you can feed the bulb harness all the way through, and then you also want to put these two blue connectors through the hole. And make sure that you do this in the correct direction. You want to make sure that you put that connector and these two blue connectors through the hole from the inside of the headlight cap to the outside, and then wedge this blue silicone grommet on both the interior face and the exterior face of the headlight cap. So once you get the bulb harness through the headlight cap, it should look like this. You're going to have this connector on the inside of the headlight cap along with the bulb. You can see you've got the silicone grommet wedged tightly in the hole that you drilled in the headlight cap, and then you've got this end of the harness on the outside. And do that with both, and it should look like this. So now's the time to take the protective cover off the HID bulb. Here you can see we've got our ARC Series 2 HID bulbs. These are distinct because they have a curved arc chamber. You can kind of see there's a bubble in the center of the glass there. The reason why that's there is it prevents the light rays from refracting when they're exiting the arc chamber. Most other HID bulbs are straight, and so when you get a light ray that's going from the very center of the chamber out in different directions, when it hits the straight glass, it will refract or it'll bend. But this bubble shape helps prevent the light beams from refracting. Now, once you get that off, what you want to do is come over here to the passenger side, and you want to line up the HID bulb with the 3 tabs inside the socket here. And so carefully slide the HID bulb into the socket, line it up, and then you want to turn it clockwise to lock it in place. And once it's locked in place, you'll see that the orientation of the bulb here, so this is kind of an oval shape where my finger is, and that oval should be the long way up and down or towards the ground into the sky. And then the next step is to take this connector, and what you want to do is find, oh, where did it go? Find this guy. This is the factory the factory power connector for the halogen bulb, and you want to connect this to this guy here. And just for reference, why don't you go ahead and line up the red wire with the red wire and then the silver with the gray. Once that connection is made, just tuck this connector back inside the headlight housing. Now take your headlight cap, oops, line up the locking tabs. Line up the locking tabs with the headlight housing. May have to spin it around a little bit just to get it, oops, just get it lined up correctly. And then once the tabs are lined up, you'll see that it'll sit in. Turn it clockwise to lock it in place until it stops, and that's it. So same deal on the driver's side here. Line up the three tabs on the headlight bulb with the three tabs, or the three openings on the headlight housing socket. Twist the bulb clockwise to lock it in place. Now the difference on the driver's side, again, this is a US vehicle, so this is we're calling this the driver's side. What you're going to leave this connection off. You're not going to connect this to the factory headlight plug like we did on the passenger side of the vehicle, and that is because we're going to draw power for the relay harness only from the passenger side. So leave these connectors undone. They're not going to be used, and then go ahead and put the headlight cap back into place. Now don't forget to put this this rubber sheet back, fold it back up, put in your two plastic clips, and secure them back in place. And the way you do that, you just push in, or put in the first side, and then put the top half in and push it to lock it in place. And then also make sure that you feed these cables through these opening slits. One nice thing to point out is that if you get the Enlight HID kit, it will come with the rapid start version of our Alpha Series ballast. And what that means is they have a high current ignition, and the high current ignition allows the HID bulbs to heat up much faster. So if you've ever seen a typical aftermarket HID kit or like a cheap eBay kit or something like that, when you turn them on, they start out very dim, and it takes almost 30 seconds for them to reach their full brightness. These ballasts start out much, much faster, and they're much more comparable to OEM HID systems. These are also very nice because they have 64-bit digital processors. They are AC, that means alternating current output to the HID bulb. And these are true 35-watt ballasts. There's a lot of controversy and a lot of misunderstanding out there with crappy HID systems. When they say they're 35 watts, what that's supposed to mean is 35-watt power output to the HID bulb. Now, I've tested a lot of other 35-watt systems, and what they're actually consuming, so that's power input to the ballast, is often less than 35 watts. So an average HID ballast, which is say 80% efficient, is only going to be 80% of 35 watts. Now this ballast outputs a true 35 watts to the bulb, and it's about 90% efficient. So you're going to get a much brighter 35 watt HID system with these ballasts compared to something else. And then also when paired with our second generation Arc series bulbs, it really makes for a nice HID system. Now the next step is to prepare the HID ballasts. Now, if you get the kit from Enlight, they're going to come with two mounting brackets along with some bolts and some zip ties. Now, you don't have to use the mounting brackets if you don't want to. There really is no one perfect way to mount the ballast. It's entirely up to you. The only conditions are make sure that they are mounted away from any major heat sources like the exhaust manifold or something like that, and make sure that however you do choose to mount them, whether it's with double-sided tape or the brackets or zip ties, that the ballasts are secure and they're not flopping around and wiggling around. So let's go ahead and mount these in the vehicle. To mount the ballast on the passenger side, what I'm going to do, again, you don't have to do it this way, this is just the way that I'm choosing to do it. I'm going to remove this bolt here on the battery tray, and then what I'm going to do is slide the HID bracket, which I've already prepared here. You can see that I've used the supplied bolts to mount the bracket to the ballast. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt that bracket to this bolt here, bend the bracket at a 90-degree angle. Well, I'm going to bend the bracket first, and then the ballast is going to sit vertically right here, and then I'm going to secure it to this factory harness. Here you can see I've got the ballast mounted now. This might be a little confusing about what's going on, but the ballast is inverted, so you've got the two black cables that are coming out facing upwards. And then I've tightened down this bolt here to lock the ballast in place. And I kind of like how this is in here. It's basically wedged in between the headlight housing here, and I've looped this factory harness around it. And with the bracket in there, it's nice and secure. It's not going to go anywhere. And let's go ahead and mount the ballast side now. Now here on the driver's side, there's plenty of mounting locations that you can choose to mount the ballast. There's lots of bolts in the tray over here. You can use these guys. I'm going to be a little unreasonable and take off this black plastic radiator cover, and there's a bolt under here which I am going to mount the HID bracket to, and that way the ballast just hangs right in that location. This is definitely more work than you need to do. I just like having the ballast right here. It looks nice and clean. It's kind of out of the way, and you're not gonna. It's kind of hidden, and that's the primary reason why I want to do it that way. If you do choose to mount the ballast this way, and you want to take off this radiator trim piece here, all you got to do is take a flathead screwdriver and then just wiggle up the top half of these connectors here, and then you want to take a pry tool or a panel pop like this and then pop it out. Once you get the top half of the connector up, then you can pull the connectors out like this, and then sometimes only one will come out, and then you gotta get under there with another tool. Comes out like that. So take all the clips out, and then this will allow you to access the bolt that's under here. So I've decided to be a bit lazy. I didn't take all of these clips out. I just took off about 4 or 5 of them here, and just enough so I can lift up this trim piece here. And then I'm going to take a 10mm wrench and then loosen up this bolt right here. Here you can see I've put the bolt back in. This bracket is bent about 90 degrees, and then the ballast sits just like that. And then what we can go ahead and do is take these guys, these are the high voltage output from the ballast, and connect them to the 2 blue connectors that are coming off the back of the HID bulbs. Now in the Enlight kits, these the blue connectors and the black connectors, it is a tight fit. So if you're struggling to get these 2 connectors together, just make sure that they're lined up correctly, but they do go in. It's just it's a really close tolerance fit. So it should look just like this one is done. And then do remember to take your plastic clips and then put whatever you took out back into place. Now the next step is to install the HID relay harness. Now a lot of people get scared of a relay harness. They think that there's a lot of wires and things like that, but it's really not that difficult. The connections are very basic. They're very simple. Most of them only go in one way, so we'll walk through all the connections and go from there. Now, a lot of people ask, why do you need a relay harness? The relay harness allows the HID system to operate independent of the vehicle's factory electronic system or the factory headlight circuit. All it does is it takes a signal, just a signal. It doesn't draw a lot of power. It just draws a signal to activate the relays to draw power directly from the battery, and that power goes to the HID ballast. This protects the vehicle's factory electronic system from overcurrent. Now, HID ballast, especially the rapid start ballast that Enlight has, they draw a lot of current, a lot more current than even a standard 55 watt halogen bulb on startup. So the first 5 to 10 seconds of warm up in an HID system is a high current condition. And most vehicles' factory wiring system is not, it's just not designed to handle that. So having a relay harness not only protects the vehicle's electronic system, but it also protects the ballasts from being starved of current. Starving ballasts from current is bad for them. It greatly reduces the lifetime and inhibits performance. So relay harness is always a good thing to have. Now for this particular installation, we're using a Morimoto HD relay harness. We are currently out of our Alpha Series relay harness, which is very similar to this, but it only has 1 relay pack instead of 2. It's still gonna have all silicone water seals on all the connectors. It'll have waterproof relay packs. It is very slightly different in the way that the wiring is laid out, but I'll cover those differences. That way, if you get the actual Enlight kit with the Alpha Series relay harness, you'll know how to install that. The connections are very similar. Now, here at the battery, what you want to do is take your finger and lift up this tab here on the side, and this will pop off, and this will expose the positive terminal of the battery. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a connection from the relay harness to both the positive terminal of the battery and the negative terminal of the battery using the appropriate locations on the relay harness. Okay, so to make a connection to the positive terminal of the battery, what you're going to do is on the relay harness, find the location of the fuse. If you have the Alpha Series relay harness, this will be red instead of black. And then find the ring terminal coming off the fuse holder. Now, at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this ring terminal into a U terminal, basically. And the reason for that is a lot of these newer vehicles, what they have, this nut here, it's not easily backed all the way off the stud. What they actually do is they flare out the top of the stud to prevent the nut from coming all the way off. And to prevent this nut from binding, all you're going to do is you're just going to loosen it a little bit. You're going to loosen it just enough so we can take what will be a U terminal and slide it under the nut, and then we'll tighten it down. So to turn it into a U terminal, all you need is a cutting tool like this. There's our U terminal, and then I've already loosened this here. And what you want to do is just slide this guy under here, like that. Now, if you want, you can probably take off this cover here and then route the wires on this side, but I'm going to do it just on this side here. And once you get it snugged under, I don't have this quite right. Let's fix that. There you go. Once you have it under, tighten that down again. Now, same thing for the negative terminal of the battery. Turn your ring terminal into a U terminal like so. Just loosen up the nut on the battery terminal just enough for you to slide. Oops. For you to slide the U terminal behind the nut, and then tighten that down. Now, just for reference, you can see how I've routed the cables here. You want to stay on the left side of the battery here. There's the positive terminal that we just connected. I've put this cap back down. You just want to fold the harness towards the ground, angle it towards the ground, and then you can close the cap. And then route the cables behind the coolant reservoir here. Now, the next step is to mount the relay pack here. Now, there's not necessarily a perfect way to do this either. You can choose a location that suits your liking. What I'm going to do, especially since this is a pretty large relay pack here, it's not always the most convenient thing to mount. It does need to be vertical in its orientation. So here on this vehicle, there's basically a rubber stop for the hood, and you'll notice that there's a little hole here. What I'm going to do, well, what I did already is I've bent this bracket here 90 degrees. I'm going to drill a hole. I'm going to drill the hole that's here slightly larger than what it is, and I'm going to use one of the supplied nuts and bolts that comes with the Enlight kit to feed it through here, and then put a nut on the back side of this bracket to hold it in place. Here you can see I've got the nut, or I'm sorry, I got the bolt in place, and I've got the relay pack secured. And you can see this is a good solid connection. Now we're going to make a few more connections on the relay harness. So coming out of the relay pack, there's going to be a couple of shorter cables. One of them is going to look like this guy here, which is a female connector, and then this guy here, which is a male connector. What we're going to do is we're going to take the female connector, which looks like this. It might have a different color silicone seal on it, but this particular one is orange. Usually they're yellow. And then you're going to plug it into the HID ballast. So this cable here is the input to the HID ballast. So make sure those are connected. Oop. And one other thing to check is to make sure that you get the polarity correct. Now, if you see on the ballast, there's a plus and a minus sign. You got to make sure that that is properly lined up with what might be a red or a blue cable or a white cable, which is going to be the 12-volt positive, and the black cable. You can barely see that there, which is going to be the negative. If this is flipped around, the ballast will not come on. So if you go to test them later and the ballast doesn't turn on, it's a good chance you might have this backwards. And the next connection that you want to make is with this guy here. Find the braided harness coming out of the back of the HID bulb and mate these connections here. As long as you're over here, go ahead and make the connection between the high voltage output of from the ballast, which is the black wires here, and also the blue connectors. So put those together. Now once you've got the relay packs mounted, what you want to do is you want to secure the wiring harness. What I've done is I put a zip tie down here and secured that to the factory wiring harness, which is where this loom is. Now, you gotta be, this truck that I'm working on here is lifted. If you have a lifted truck, this is really difficult to get to unless you're super tall. I had to get a step stool to reach down to put that zip tie on, but it makes for a nice clean install. And then the next thing that you can do is start taking some of the any extra length of the wires and then zip tie it to this factory harness here and get it all tucked away and make it look clean. Now the next step is to take the long cable of the harness that stretches over to the driver's side of the vehicle, and what we're going to do is we're just going to feed it under this radiator trim piece here. So what you can do is you can tuck it away underneath this piece all the way across over to the driver's side. Once you've got that cable tucked away, you can see that I've routed it underneath this bracket here, and then here underneath the radiator cover all the way down to the passenger side. Make sure you do get it tucked in snugly under this cover. Route it here, and then I've made the connection between the input to the ballast. Again, make sure that you get the polarity correct on this connector. And we've already done these, and that's it. That's all the connections. You can see we turn the headlights on. Got a nice crystal white light. It's a good match to the factory LEDs on this particular vehicle. And these are going to be about 250% brighter than your stock halogen bulbs. Looks real good. Once you've tested the HID system, the next step is to start tightening up all the wires. Here you can see that I've secured some of the extra length of the wires to there's a factory harness under here. So tidy up those wires, and then also make sure you mount the igniter for the ballast, which is this kind of big black brick here. What I've done is taken a zip tie and secured it to the factory harness, which is here. And then you can also use a couple zip ties to secure all the harnesses down and make sure that nothing's flopping around. And do this on both the passenger and driver side of the vehicles. Here on the driver's side of the vehicle, again, just make sure you tidy everything up, make sure nothing's flopping around. What I've done here is I've secured the igniter for the ballast to a factory wire harness, which is where my finger is down there. And then also I've utilized one of the factory mounting brackets for the hood latch cable, and I fed the wires from the igniter of the ballast through there just to keep them tucked away. So there you go. That completes the installation of the HID system. Now what's left is to put back the airbox. Now to get the airbox back in, just make sure that you take care of where the wires are and make sure that there's clearance and that you don't get any wires caught in between the fender wall here and the airbox. And then you want to line up the tabs with the tabs and the pins with the holes on the bottom of the tray that's down there. And then once you get them lined up, hopefully I got mine lined up here. Once you get them lined up, you want to push straight down and lock it into place. Once you've got the bottom half of the airbox locked in place, oops, take your air filter, slide it under like this, get it to drop down in the pocket, and then now take the top half of the airbox and then get it lined up with the intake hose, and then also make sure it sits properly on all 4 mounting locations, and then there's that one, and then put all the screws back into place. And then also make sure that this hose here is all the way on. There we go. There's a little stop here. There's a little plastic stop here, and make sure that the rubber hose is pushed all the way onto the stop, and then also tighten up the band clamp. Don't over tighten this or else you'll break the clamp. Also, don't forget to take the mass airflow sensor connector, click that on, push the red tab to lock it down. Whoop, there goes my flash. And from there, don't forget to take this guy here, that gray tab, and push it back into its factory mounting location, which is there. Hopefully you can see that. Once everything's back together, it should look like this. Now there's just barely enough room for the relay pack there. It looks nice and tucked away. Kind of almost looks like factory. I like it there. It is a very, very tight fit, so don't be surprised if you have to work a little bit to get everything tucked away in there. But that's it. That completes the entire installation. Again, make sure you get those bolts in there all tight, all 4 of them. There's that one. And that guy right there. Get all those tight, and that's it. If you'd like to purchase this kit, go to www.enlightauto.com, go to the Select Your Vehicle section, and find the appropriate make and model of your vehicle.